Es ist eine ganz besondere Ausstellung, die heute hier im Museum Frieder Burda in Baden-Baden eröffnet. Margaret und Christine Wertheim. Wert und Wandel der Korallen. Eine Explosion der Formen und Farben, wunderschön anzusehen, aber es steckt auch viel Botschaft dahinter. Natürlich der Klimawandel, die Verschmutzung der Meere, der Schutz unserer Erde, aber auch Mathematik, Physik, Biologie und Evolutionslehre. Und wenn man den beiden Künstlerinnen zuhört, dann kann man noch ganz schön viel lernen, wie ich im Good-News4-Video-Interview gemerkt habe. Your work is so beautiful and stunning when you enter the room and see all those colors and the corals. But that's not all there is to discover. So what would you like to know, to discover and to realize with visitors of your exhibition about your work?
Do you want to start with that? No, you don't. I think there's a number of different aspects to the project that we think are important. Firstly, there has been since the 17th, 18th century a tradition of people making handicraft objects which are scientific representations of things that are difficult to preserve, like the interiors of flowers or even bodies of animals. Often these models were made in paper mache. A lot of things were also made in glass. Sea creatures, particularly jellyfish, were made in glass. And so we see our project in this tradition of scientific representations of things that are hard to preserve, only in this case the handicraft used and the material used is not paper mache or glass, but crochet and yarn. So yes, so the whole history of scientific representations made by craftspeople, not scientists or computer generated, and we think that's very important, and that there is a long tradition of it. Secondly, there's the aspect that the craft we use is a craft that's coded in our culture feminine, so it's feminine handicrafts that are being used to make these scientific representations. And craft works by women have generally been excluded from the fine art world for the last 150 years. It's not entirely true, but it's still largely true, and so getting works made by feminine handicraft into museums is really important. Another point is that the project is evolutionary. It has grown and evolved over time, both at the level of the individual coral forms and at the level of their curation into reefs. Our very early projects were very small and had very few corals. Now there's just this huge taxonomy of different forms and different shapes, and the reefs are incredibly elaborate. So the project has actually been a process of genuine evolution. And then lastly, there's the mathematical element, which Margaret might like to say something about.
Yeah, it's almost like listening to, someone in the university. It's like you're mathematicians and biologists, and it's so much more interesting than in school.
Well, one of the whole points of the work that we do is to try to find ways to engage people with mathematics and scientific and computational ideas in a way that is pleasurable and physical and material. So maths and physics, etc., are usually taught through equations and textbooks that most people are never going to be able to read or understand. But through crocheting these forms that you see in the gallery, you are learning about the geometry that ultimately underlies not only coral structures, but the structure of the universe. So really what we want people to do is to see that science and mathematics are available to them, that these are not just distant subjects for a few small experts, they are actually for everybody.
And you just said that this exhibition here at Museum Frieder Burda is like your 16th chapel. Why is that?
Sistine Chapel, yeah.
In the
Sistine
Vatican.
Chapel?
Because we've been doing this project for 16 years, and for 16 years we've been doing satellite reefs so we make our reefs, and then the reefs made by the people of a city or a country or a town or a whole country. And up to now, the biggest reefs that have been done, there's been 3 or 4 that had 5,000 corals. Here we had over 40,000 corals sent in. So in a way, the size of the Baden-Baden reef is bigger than the size of all the other reefs put together. And also the diversity of forms that we got is much, much greater. And then also the Frieder Burda Museum has very generously provided the resources so that we could have a curatorial team working for 2.5 months to curate all these 40,000 corals into these spectacular coral mounds and coral walls. And so it's just more complex, bigger, and more interestingly curated than any crochet coral reef we've ever done, by far. It's like a quantum leap up. And it's just much, much bigger and better than any coral reef that we've ever been involved in. There may be other crochet reefs that we don't know about, but
also, like the Sistine Chapel was a handmade artwork, hand-painted artwork that took a long, long time. And you see that in the quality of the work and just the scale of it. And so too, this work, as Chrissy said, took a long, long time to hand make. And it's not often that you get to see so much hand making on such a large scale all in one place.
Thank you very much for the interview, and all the best for you.
Oh, thank you.